It's Karen from Celtic Healing Corner. Welcome back. We're up to video 9 in our series, and today it's an exciting time because you're going to learn how to do an on-body healing for yourself. And first of all, I want to say up front that you don't have to have a lot of crystals to do any kind of on-body healing. The main one that you would use is the clear quartz, which is the master healer. So you might just have one crystal, and it might be a point, it might be a tumble stone, it doesn't really matter which form it's in, as long as you've done the necessary prerequisite steps that we've talked about in our previous DVDs. And if you haven't seen those, have a quick look at those about how to choose, how to cleanse, and how to charge and program your crystals. So you would have already done that before you get to the point of using it on your body for a healing. So this can go on any chakra, it can go on any part of the body, it can be used around you or on the body itself. It's a very, very powerful healer. As I said, it's considered the master healer because it amplifies everything around it. It's quite gentle, but at the same time, very powerful. So if you're only going to get one crystal for on-body healing, I'd suggest you start with clear quartz. For those of you who may have already caught the crystal addiction bug and started buying some other different crystals, of course there are other options for the on-body healing that you can use. And we've touched on those in earlier DVDs. If you haven't seen some of those, you might like to flick back and have a look at them to refresh yourself or to see them for the first time. But in one of them I talked about the chakras, and I talked about choosing crystals that you could use on your chakras by their colours. So this is just a little basic crystal kit. You would have seen it before in earlier DVDs, and it's got the different crystals for the different chakras. So again, you could use this on the body, looking at each of the chakras and just simply going by the colour of the crystal to help you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the chakras because they're the main area that most people want to cleanse and balance, because they're what feeds our aura, and it's often in our auric field that things get stuck or things get trapped and flow doesn't happen, and so we like to rebalance those meridians and those energy points to be able to cleanse and clear that aura and release a lot of things. So most people, when they start with on-body healing, will look at their chakras. So I'll just do a very quick recap of them. So we'll start with the 7. There are more chakras than 7, but I'm just talking about the 7 that are on the actual body for on-body healing. So the base chakra is actually round on the perineum, but when we're doing a healing on someone else, we would usually do it just above the pubic bone. But it's up to you because you're doing it on yourself. So if you're quite comfortable, you might like to actually place it between your legs next to the perineum or next to the tailbone. Otherwise, just put it just above your pubic bone, and that's your base chakra. We said that the base resonates and vibrates at the same frequency as the colour red. So we associate red with that chakra. So any red stones is what we would use in that area. We also said you can use some of the Earth Star chakra stones, which are blacks and browns. So sometimes people will use those instead, but just as a gentle rule of thumb for a beginner, look for a red stone for your base. The base chakra is all about our grounding, our security in the world, and it also is linked to the element of earth. Now you may wonder why I'm mentioning the elements, and it'll make a little bit of sense later on when I talk about different options of choosing how you might like to heal. So it's important to know what links with what. So your base chakra links with the earth element, the colour red, and it's to do with our security and our grounding and our place in the world. It's our survival, it's our physical being in the world. The next chakra up is between your pubic bone and your belly button, and it's called your sacral chakra. It vibrates at the frequency of the colour orange, and it is linked with the element of water. So it is where your emotions sit, it's also where your sexuality sits, where your reproduction sits, it's It's where all of those feelings and connections and relationships and emotions sit, which is why it's linked with the element of water, because water is all about emotion. We said that it resonates with the colour orange, so any kind of orange stone or crystal would work for that chakra. The next chakra up is your solar plexus, and it resonates and vibrates with the colour yellow. So again, any yellow kind of crystal or stone would work for that chakra. And it's where our passion is, it's where our fire is, it's where our drive, our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and how we project ourselves into the world. It's the thing that motivates us. That all sits in that energy there. And so, not surprisingly, it's linked with the element of fire. So passion, drive, confidence, being assertive, moving forward in the world. And it's located between your belly button and the bottom of your rib cage, in that area there. The next chakra up is our heart chakra. And even though the heart is to the left-hand side, the heart chakra is right in the middle, and it resonates and vibrates with the colour green. So any green kind of crystal or stone would work with that chakra. And of course, the heart, pretty obvious, it's all about love. Not just love in terms of romantic love, but love for others, love for your children, love for your family, love for humankind, and of course, very importantly, love for yourself. So it's the seat of universal love. So it doesn't really have an element as such, it's just linked with universal love. The next chakra up is at the base of your throat, where that little U shape is, right in there. So basically just in front of your thyroid. And that is the throat chakra. It resonates and vibrates with the colour blue. And so any blue crystal or stone will work with that chakra. This chakra is all about communication, speaking your truth, being authentic and true to yourself, being able to express yourself. And that expression can be in other creative forms like songwriting or poetry or writing literature, as well as verbal. So it's all about communication, not just verbal speech. And it's linked with air, because air is all about communication and intellect and making yourself known, your truth in the world. The next chakra up is the third eye. And it's in between your eyebrows and just a little bit up. And it's the chakra that resonates with the colour indigo. Some people will often say it's purple, but it's really a bluey kind of purple. So any kind of purple or deep blue or bluey purple kind of stone would work on that chakra. It's where our intuition sits. It's where we connect with other realms, other dimensions, the spirit world, our intuition, our gut feeling, and it resonates with or is linked to the ether element. And the last chakra on the physical body, the seventh chakra, is the crown chakra, right on the top of the head. And it vibrates and resonates with the frequency of purple. Some people say it resonates white, but that's because just above it is another chakra, which is the soul star, which is white. But the crown chakra actually resonates with the colour purple. So any purple stone would work with that chakra. And it doesn't particularly have an element as such that links with it. It just links with the light, with the source of all that is. So those are the chakras. Now those energy vortexes or pumps or hubs or however you want to, or nexuses, whatever word you want to use for it, they actually feed out into our auric fields. And it's the auric fields that it's going to be worked on energetically when you have your healings done. And from that, it resonates into the physical body. So it kind of is a flowing in and flowing out kind of effect. There are 7 chakras that we've talked about on the body, so there are 7 auric layers that come from that. Now there are more auric layers than that, just as there are more chakras, but for the purposes of this beginner course, we're just looking at the 7 on the physical body and the 7 auric fields that feed from that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it because you don't really need to know the intricate details. You just need to know that they exist and that there are 7 of them and that they link directly with those chakras. So the first layer out from the body in the auric field is the etheric body, and it's fed by the base chakra. Now, you would think that it might be red because that's what the base chakra resonates at. It isn't, it's actually a bluey, greyy colour. But I'm not going to worry you about the colours of the auras because it's just going to confuse you at this point. So just accept that the base chakra feeds that very first auric field, the one that's closest to the body. And they slowly move out, basically centimetres at a time from the body. Some people have auric fields that are very, very wide. Very spiritual people can have them kilometres wide. But we're talking about at the very basic level of just the 7 layers out from the auric fields in the body, from the chakras in the body. So the first one is the etheric layer, and it's fed by the base chakra. The next one is the emotional body, and it's fed, guess where the emotions sit? In your sacral. So it's fed by the sacral chakra. The first layer is very much the physical layer around the body, the physical blueprint, just like the base is your physical grounding in the world. The sacral is your emotional body because that's where your emotions sit. The third layer out is your mental body, and it's related to your solar plexus. The fourth layer out is where the astral layer is, and that's the layer, it's kind of the bridge between the physical and the spiritual planes. So it's the place where, if you've ever heard of astral travel or astral projection, or people may have talked about how they go visiting in their dreams, or where they meet their guides, that all happens on that plane, at that bridge between the spirit world and the physical world. And that's the fourth layer out. So that's the astral level. So after the bridge is the fifth layer, and it's also related to emotions. So it's called the emotional template. So we talked about the emotional body in the physical sense, in the physical realm. This is the emotional template in the spiritual realm. The next layer out is the celestial layer. And it relates again to that spiritual layer, to the etheric side of things. And the last one that's relating to the crown is your catheric template. So it's really, they're called bodies below that bridge and templates above that bridge. So it's kind of the spiritual world versus the physical world with the bridge in between. Now I hope that hasn't confused you, and to be honest, as I said before, you don't really need to understand it all. You just need to know that there are 7 layers and they're fed by those 7 chakras. Okay, so now let's look at, now we know about chakras, we've reviewed that. Now we've got a bit of an idea about the aura. How are we going to go about starting our on-body healing? Well, the first thing to do is decide what kind of a healing you want to have. As I said before, if you've just got the one crystal and you just want to use that one, that's fine. You might decide that feeling really emotional at the moment, I'm having lots of emotional problems, I'm very teary, I'm a little bit upset about something. So I would then look at, well, what chakra is that sitting with? And the emotions, as we said before, we know sit in the sacral chakra. So I would be lying down, putting some quiet music on, making sure I wasn't going to be disturbed, relaxing. I would, of course, have cleansed, charged and programmed my crystal that I want this to work for healing for my highest good. So that would have already been done. Get into a relaxed state, maybe light some candles, some soft music, whatever you need to relax. And then of course you would put this onto the chakra. Now it's up to you how long you have it there. Generally speaking, you would need probably at least 10-15 minutes, maybe longer. The longer you leave it, the more the energy is going to work within your auric field. And you don't necessarily have to be asleep to have it working, but you can. If you wanted to take it to bed, you can take it to bed and have it working overnight. You might be sitting watching the TV. It's not really ideal because you're not in that relaxed state, but the crystal energy will still be working to help heal. So find what works for you, what feels comfortable for you. And that's just one crystal. Obviously, if there's other areas that you're wanting to work on, maybe you've got a big presentation to do and you're feeling really nervous about it. You're not quite sure how it's going to go. You have to get up in public and speak. That's a fear for a lot of people. So where would communication be? Where would that sit on the chakras? It would sit in the throat. So you might put your one crystal, your one piece of quartz on your throat chakra and do the same. So hopefully that's explained at the very simplest level how you would do an on-body healing with just one crystal. We mentioned before that some people want to put all of their chakras in alignment. Or you may have several chakras that you want to work on. Maybe for that presentation we talked about, you might be thinking, well, yes, I need to communicate, but I also need the confidence to do that. I need to feel self-assured that I can do that. So you might also be working on your solar plexus as well as your throat. So you might want some divine guidance in it, or some intuition, or some gut instinct. So you might be working on your third eye as well. So you have to work out what it is you think you want to work on. If you want to just do a whole balance of all of your chakras, I would recommend your little chakra kit. And you would simply take each of those and place them on the body in turn. Now, if you're doing it for yourself, I would start at the base chakra, because if you've got to sit up, you don't want a crystal on your head to be falling off. So start at the base and work down as you lie down to relax. Another way we could look at approaching a healing on the body is you might be looking at, you might have collected quite a number of crystals, or you might have been attracted to crystals and just not know why. But now you want to use those crystals for a specific purpose for your on-body healing. So the first thing then to do is to work out, if they're not all the colours and easily sorted for you, work out maybe what elements they belong to, and you can link it to the element of that chakra. So for instance, we said the base was earth, so find an earth crystal. The sacral was water, so find a water crystal. The solar plexus was fire, so find a fire crystal, and so on. So you could work it that way. Another way to think about it, if you don't want to think specifically about the chakras, is you might also want to think just purely from an elemental perspective. That could be your zodiac sign. For instance, I'm Pisces, that's a water sign. So I might want to balance that water in my body, particularly as water is an emotion. It's linked to all the emotions. So if I'm feeling particularly emotional, one way or another, either very sad, or I'm overly worried, or I'm overly anxious, or anything like that, and I want to balance it, I would look at how the elements work in nature and what could I use to balance that. So for water, I'd be looking at something to ground me, something that is going to stop the flow of me a bit, like a huge big rock or a huge big dam. And so that would be earth. So I would probably be looking at some earth crystals to help balance. And of course we know the water chakra is my sacral, so I would be putting those earth crystals on my sacral chakra. So that might sound a little bit contradictory, because I'd said to you that the base was earth. but that's about if you want to balance that chakra. What I'm talking about is balancing that element. I'm not talking about the chakra. So I would put them there. You may feel differently about it. You may want to have those earth crystals, but on a different place in your body. You might just feel that you want to put them here on your tummy, or you might just want to put them on your chest, or you might just want to hold them in your hands. Whatever feels right for you is absolutely fine. There is no right or wrong way to do this. There's lots of different ways that you can balance and do healings, particularly on your chakras, like sound or meditation or color therapy. But in the case of crystals, I'd really be guided by what you feel instinctively, what sits and resonates well with you about how to use them. The other way that you can use your crystals is if you've got a specific injury or problem in your body that you want to deal with. So we've talked about using them to deal with chakras. We've talked about using them to deal with the elements. And now we're going to talk about a specific problem, like you've got a sore shoulder. It's a joint problem or a muscular problem. We said earlier in our other videos that often physical ailments or disease in the body comes from outside of that auric field, where things haven't been cleared and dealt with, and they move inwards and they end up settling in the body and causing physical manifestations of those problems. But we can still energetically treat those, not just on the physical sense of the body, but while the energy is working, it's also working out in those auric fields. So you might then look at, well, what crystals might be good for healing joints and muscles, and you might choose some of those. It might be that you are just intrinsically and intuitively guided to certain crystals to be used in some certain way on the body. And that's fine too. Do what resonates with you. I guess the last way to do your own healing of your own body is to put yourself as the anchor in a grid. In this case, you might have some crystals on your body, you might have some crystals around your body. They might be in a specific pattern or energetic field. But we're going to talk more about crystal grids in the next video. So I'm not going to focus on that in this particular video. I'm going to talk more about the on-body healing of the crystals. So now let's look at how you could place some of those crystals. What would it look like on an actual body? Okay, so I'm just going to quickly run through how you would actually use each of those methods that I suggested for an on-body healing for yourself. So first one was the clear quartz. You would work out which area you wanted to work on, and you would then place the clear quartz on that area. So in this case, we're going to assume that the person is wanting to work on their heart chakra, that for some reason they want to open themselves up to more love, to their own self-love, or to build relationships based on love, to be able to communicate better based on love. Whatever it is, they've linked in that they want to work on that particular chakra. So in this case, we would find the chakra. We've already cleansed, charged and programmed our crystal to be for healing for the highest good, and we would simply place it onto the body. As I said, you might want to have some nice music in the background, you might want to light some candles, you might want to take it to bed with you, entirely up to you. And you would just leave it in place for however long you felt comfortable for it to be there. So very simple, one crystal on the body. The next healing we talked about was if you wanted to balance all of your chakras, or you had more than one crystal and more than one chakra you wanted to work with. So we'd said initially for beginners, I suggested that you start with just the colours of the stones to guide you. So we would go to the base chakra, just above the pubic bone or just at the top of it, And we would use a red crystal. So I have some red jasper and I would just place it there. The next chakra up, we said, is the sacral chakra, and it's orange. So I've got some orange carnelian here and I would just place it there. The next chakra up, I'll just get you to move your hands for me to your side if you don't mind. Thank you. Is the solar plexus, and we said it's yellow, and I have some citrine here, so I'm just going to place that there. The next chakra up is the heart chakra, and we said that it's green, so I have some green adventurine here, and I'm just going to place that there. The next chakra up is the throat chakra. We said it's light blue in colour, so I have some blue lace agate and I'm just going to place that on the body there. Then we move up to the third eye, which I said was an indigo colour, so a bluey purple colour, very deep colour, and I have a piece of lapis that I'm going to use for that. And then the crown chakra, which we said is purple, so I have some amethyst, and I'm just going to place that there. So that's how you would do an on-body healing to balance all of the chakras using a very simple chakra kit based on the colours of the stones. And again, you'd leave them on the body as long as you felt comfortable. I would suggest between 15 minutes and half an hour at least, if you can manage that. The next kind of healing I suggested was to think about the elements and to think about how you might want to balance or work with those. And the first suggestion was to think about your zodiac sign. So in this case, the person's zodiac sign is air. So because it's an air sign, there might be too much in the head, they might be too much in the intellect, they might be too much in terms of trying to communicate and be very disjointed from other chakras and from their heart chakra and their emotions in particular. It may be that they need to balance some of that air with other elements. So think about what balances air. If I put fire with air, it's just going to fuel it. It's not going to soothe it. So what I would put with air is some water to soothe it. Because the air, if it's forceful, think about a wind and evaporation. It means that the water won't be residual, but the water will help to dissipate some of that air. It will take away some of its power as it evaporates. So I've chosen some water crystals here, and many of them are blue, but not all of them. One is rose quartz, it's pink. Kyanite, which is blue. This is azurite. I wasn't quite sure if it was chrysocolla, but it's not, it's azurite. Blue lace agate, aquamarine, and ocean jasper. Now you might think, well, I should put this perhaps on the sacral chakra because that's where all the emotions are. But if it's not the emotions I'm trying to balance, in this case, I've described someone with too much air, that's too much in their head and not enough in their heart. So I'm going to put this on his heart chakra. And again, I would leave it here for at least 15 minutes, half an hour. Longer is great if you can do it, but I know that people are busy, it's not always possible. So that's one way you could use the elements to balance the chakras, or to balance the other elements. And the last on-body way I suggested to do a healing is if you'd had a very specific problem. Now I described a shoulder problem, and a shoulder problem is really muscular and skeletal in nature. So you'd look at the sorts of crystals that would work well to help ease the pain, help ease the tension, help ease the stiffness, as well as working energetically in the auric layers to help dissipate the problem that started in the first place, because that's where it started before it presented in the body. So intuitively, I've chosen malachite, which is a beautiful healing stone, and I'm just going to place it on the body as best I can, because they're tumble stones, so they're a little bit tricky. They're slipping around here, just around the shoulder as best I can, and I've lost one. That's okay. I've also got some emerald, and emerald is very healing. It's not considered the master healer, but it's pretty close because it works with lots of different chakras, and it is very, very healing. So I'm going to put that on there, and this is a raw piece. I want to cool the joint because it's been inflamed and it's got lots of energy that's producing heat and inflammation. So I'm using some blue calcite, a water stone, to help cool it. And because I want to ground this energy, I want to bring it back to the physical body. I want not only the energy from the crystals to work in the auric layer, but to work on the physical body itself. I'm using some petrified wood. So intuitively I've chosen those. You can go away and research and try and find what crystals might be good for what purpose. You might like to ask someone that you trust what they think. If you're feeling like you don't know where to start, drop me a line, drop me an email, and I'll try and help you out as best I can. But ultimately, as I've said throughout all these DVDs, trust your own gut, trust your own instinct. You're being attracted to certain crystals for certain purposes, all on your own. Your energy field is linking in with their energy field. Trust that. And use your intuition to know which crystals for what purpose you need. Join me next time for the final video in this series, where I'll have a very special offer for you at the end, but also where you'll get to learn how to set up grids using crystals, and even how to use your body as the anchor in a crystal grid for healing. Thanks for joining me.